Here.
Hudson,
Present.
Trevelyan, McKinney.
Here.
We have 5 members present, Your Honor.
Right. Ryan, any changes to the agenda?
The only change to the agenda was the removal on the workshop regarding the Westtown Parkway realignment.
Okay.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the amended agenda is approved. Item 2 is citizens forum, which is the time for anyone in the audience who'd like to address the city council on any item that's not part of public hearings or new business. And if you're on the phone, make sure that you hit *6 at any point where you'd like to share comments with the council. So anyone for citizens forum tonight? Okay. Item 3, Mayor, City Council, City Manager reports. We'll start with a report on the Mayor's Pledge Task Force report update.
Sorry, this is the online David's on.
Okay, Mr. Maxwell's online. Hi, Mr. Maxwell.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You look great, by the way.
You as well.
David Maxwell always looks great.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
We love your love sign in the background.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. Can you see my presentation as well?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. All right, first of all, good evening, council and mayor. Thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to share the findings of our report that you asked us to do at the beginning of the summer. This is the West Des Moines Police Department's Mayor's Task Force Review, Strengths and Opportunities for Growth. First of all, just a few thank yous. We'd like to thank you, first of all, Mayor, for convening us and bringing us together for this effort. Also would like to send a huge thank you to the leadership of the West Des Moines Police Department with Chief Scott, Assistant Chief Overson, Captains Barrett, Captain Hayes, as well as City Manager Tom Haddon and Deputy City Manager Jamie Litzring for meeting with us and for giving us feedback on this presentation. Also would like to thank Director of Human Resources, Jane Dodge, for providing us with important information, as well as Civil Service Commission members Emily Bartkowski, Kevin Flagg, and Chris Haviland for the conversations that they gave, and also a perspective that they shared around their responsibilities on the Civil Service Commission. And also Community Education Director for the West Des Moines Community Schools, Shauna Jansen, for also providing us with information. First of all, I'd like to just introduce some of the task force community members. Some are present tonight, some are not. And we had just a great range of experiences, age, from a current senior at Valley High School to a former city council member. But Nia Botley, who's a senior at Valley High School this year, Lonnie Daphne, a member of our community school board, Samantha Green, who is currently a student at the University of Iowa, myself, who serves as principal at Valley High School, Bob Parks, who is retired, a former West Des Moines Community City Council member, 4 terms. Also, he worked with Ameris Bank and has been a 50-plus year resident of West Des Moines. Abe Rodich, the director of the Co-op Financial Services, Al Womble, the chair for the Iowa Democratic Party, as well as Lamar Yeager, who is a project assistant with the West Des Moines Youth Justice Initiative, YJI. So just a quick recap. On June 15th, the mayor's pledge stated, whereas the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and the loss of far too many Black lives to list have left our nation anguished and outraged, and whereas more than 1,000 people are killed by police every year in America, and Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed than white people, and whereas we can take steps and make reforms to combat police violence and systemic racism within law enforcement, and whereas together we can work to redefine public safety so it recognizes the humanity and dignity of every person, and whereas mayors and other city council officials are uniquely positioned to introduce common sense limits on police use of force, now therefore I, Stephen K. Gare, Mayor of the City of West Des Moines, Iowa, do hereby pledge that we will commit to review the police use of force policies, engage communities by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories in our review, report the findings of our review to our community and seek feedback, and also reform our community's police use of force policies. So just really quickly, a preliminary thought. The reason we got together was to review the use of force policies, particularly with the West Des Moines Police Department. The presentations, conversations, and new learnings which took place during this time reinforced the city of West Des Moines as a leader in the state of Iowa regarding municipal departments, specifically law enforcement, fire, and emergency services. This opportunity also allowed us as West Des Moines citizens to closely interact with our law enforcement community. As a result of this opportunity, we recognize both that there are aspects to celebrate as well as opportunities for growth. It is our intent to provide an assessment of the policies, processes, procedures, and operations of the West Des Moines Police Department through an equity lens. So the perspective, what is the perspective? First of all, this is not an indictment of the West Des Moines Police Department. We attempted to explore the culture of policing in America through the lens of the West Des Moines Police Department. We know that a positive community culture is dependent upon the relationship of municipal government entities with the residents of that community. Also, dating back to a race-based system of enslavement, racism has been a part of our country's history. There is historical record of African Americans disproportionately killed by law enforcement. There is also a historical record of the justice system exonerating responsible police officers. And these actions have created an adverse, distrustful relationship between law enforcement and African Americans. Just real quickly, just a few stats here. The trend of fatal police shootings in the United States seems to only be increasing, with a total of 721 civilians having been killed in 2017. 142 of whom were black. And as of September 20, 2020. In 2018, there were 996 fatal police shootings. And in 2019, this figure increased to 1,004. Additionally, the rate of fatal police shootings among Black Americans was much higher than that for any ethnicity, standing at 32 fatal shootings per million of the population as of September 2020. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Hold on a second. Okay. Here we go. So just quickly a stat. This graph showing the proportion of different ethnicities with regards to police shootings per 1 million people. The format of the presentation: after meeting during the months of May, June, July, August, and September, the scope of our review resulted beyond the initial request to review the use of force policy. Other policies and procedures reviewed include recruitment, the hiring process, training, racial profiling, duty to intervene, complaint submission process, data collection and reporting, and review and advisory boards. So first, we want to share the strengths and then opportunities for growth. So when we think about the West Des Moines Police Department overall, the strengths, the leadership of the department, first of all, they are open to listening and creating relationships. The West Des Moines Police Department is a leader in the state of Iowa with being a part of the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, also known as CALEA, for 22 years, as well as being a leader in the state of Iowa with using Lexipol policy review. And there are policies and practices in place to address social justice issues. Some opportunities for growth include looking and seeking leadership opportunities for women and officers of color, a commitment to making real sustainable changes. And what that simply means is when we have experiences like this, where we bring people together and we review and we make recommendations, that we continue this process and that we don't let this be in vain. And also, we did mention that it's always advantageous for officers to live in the community, and that simply helps with building relationships and knowing who they are policing. I did want to share this, and this was a community needs assessment conducted by the West Des Moines Community Schools Community Education. they did a survey, and the results of this survey were shared at the school board meeting on October 12th of this year. Just so, for instance, the community perspective from Spanish-speaking residents, and I'm going to jump down to the quotes. I feel really safe here. I leave my car unlocked sometimes. I feel that we are lucky to have an understanding police department. I work in a daycare. One of the kids' dads works in the police department and always says we are welcome and we can call and don't need to be afraid. When it comes to the police, they are more understanding when it comes to our community. Also, high school students, the community perspective, again, the quotes, I love how safe it is. You don't have to worry about going for a walk alone. Every other corner you see a police officer, makes you feel safe. A good ratio of people trained to protect us. For 2 years, I'd walk from Indian Hills. There were police officers around before and after school. Safety and supportiveness is incredible. You hear about school shootings. I worry about it, but I feel safe at our school. The police department location between the schools is great. During marching band season, I would always pass a cop going in the doors of schools. I see them create this sense of order. I like how calm our officers are. I never see them extremely angry. They are calm when talking to you. So just wanted to share that as a result of the survey that this was the perspective of two groups within our community, our Spanish-speaking community members as well as high school students. When we think about the recruiting process, some of the strengths, that there's an established relationship with Mississippi Valley State University, that there's community participation of West Des Moines Police Department leadership as evidenced by this group, actively seeking to diversify the West Des Moines Police Department. And when I talked to the Civil Service Commission members, they said that really over the last 5 years that there's been a concerted effort to try to diversify the West Des Moines Police Department. Some opportunities for growth include expand the sourcing and recruitment strategies to include more diverse organizations, schools, and communities. Start the conversation with members of our own community. So members of West Des Moines, just bringing members from the community in and having those conversations around how to better recruit. Creative recruiting strategies, including social media, ads, mailers, etc. Create a recruiting video which reflects the diversity of the West Des Moines community, as well as if going outside of the state to recruit, it's advantageous to send diverse representation, as well as more visibility of different officers at various community and cultural events. There was a sentiment that oftentimes we'll see the same officers showing up at different events around diversity, around culture. I know, for instance, Jim Barrett was a regular attender at the West Des Moines Community Equity Conversations, and it would be awesome to see more officers as well at some of these different events. With regards to the hiring process, strengths include continue the current job fair efforts and outreach. The hiring process, we believe, is set up to find and hire the best candidates. Opportunities for growth include need to look closely at the entire hiring process. So from the very beginning, from the application all the way to the very end, with the job description, interview process, exams, the review board, and also some of the disqualifiers. A diverse interview panel and civil service commission is necessary from the current reality. That is not intended to be any slight to the current Civil Service Commission members. I do believe that they do take their job very seriously and that responsibility. But again, anytime we can try to diversify and look at from different perspectives, it's always a positive thing. Also, there was some concern around the emphasis and preference for a military background raised questions. And where that came from is that sometimes there's a belief that military training includes being trained to eliminate the threat. I will quote Assistant Chief Overson when he stated that there's a different perspective as well, which is that of a guardian mentality, where instead of eliminating the threat, that the mentality and the perspective is to protect. Continuing with the opportunities for growth with the hiring process, we did feel that when we scrutinized the entire process, that it did appear biased, unnecessarily long, and considered factors which unfavorably impedes people of color. So for instance, credit checks. We wanted to know, what does that have to do with serving in law enforcement? Also, looking at the post test, which is the police officer selective test, and just looking and reviewing that for bias. And also, there's different levels for passing. So, for instance, on the written exam, you have to an applicant has to earn 70% on all sections, and on the review of the oral exam, they have to have an 80%. And also, looking at where the bias is, and also asking the question, why is that different from the written exam? Follow up with disqualified individuals with proactive outreach, especially the non-mandatory disqualifiers, looking more closely at demographics. For instance, the West Des Moines Police Department has a goal of having a certain percentage of minority officers within a certain amount of time, which reflects the community in which we live. And I know that the schools have a similar challenge in trying to find teachers of color who might reflect the student population in proportion. So a similar goal could be put forth for the West Des Moines Police Department. With regards to training, the strengths that we found, CALIA certification and continued focus on achieving certification, as well as the practice simulator for officers with the emphasis on de-escalation strategies. All the task force members had an opportunity to experience the simulator, and we did not have to go through the entire experience, but we did have a sense of what the challenges are that officers face when they respond to a call for service, as well as focusing on trying to de-escalate the situation. Also, some of the strengths that the variety and time commitment to training for new and existing officers. Implicit bias training is offered, as well as GARE training, which stands for the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. That training is provided as well. Some opportunities for growth include annual training dedicated to de-escalation, continuing to focus on de-escalation, requiring the implicit bias training instead of offering, and also demonstrate examples of inappropriate use of force, for instance, what not to do. With regards to racial profiling, strengths, body and vehicle cameras to capture all interactions are currently in place for the West Des Moines Police Department. There is a policy around bias policing, and those results are reported quarterly. That there is department oversight of bias policing, that there is a racial profiling policy as well. Some opportunities for growth include officers should be terminated due to any proven instance of racial profiling versus reviewed, and that the officer would maintain employment without consequences. And this is one very specific here. This is around policy 401.1 around the bias-based policing, speaks specifically to prohibiting bias-based policing. For instance, if there is an incident where bias-based policing is suspected, per policy 401.5, the supervisor responsibilities, what we're recommending is that it says currently supervisors should discuss issues, and we're recommending that we replace should with must and replace discuss with investigate. So for instance, supervisors must investigate issues with the involved officer, and during that investigation, the suspected officer is placed on administrative leave. So I wanted to share also just use of force 3-year trends. So in 2017, there were 52,770 calls for service. There were 1,963 arrests. There were 21 use of force incidents. So like less than, just a little bit more than 1% of the arrests included use of force. There were 16 white, 3 African American, 2 Latinx. In 2018, we had 65,550 calls for service, so a considerable jump, but despite that, we had fewer arrests. We had only 7 use of force incidents, and all were white offenders. In 2019, we had 48,288 calls for service. We had 1,520 arrests and 6 use of force incidents, and that included 3 white and 3 African Americans. So the use of force, some strengths that we found. The policy is well documented. There's required body camera and vehicle camera footage allowed for review and audit, in addition to written reporting. There is a continuum for use of force. as well as supervisors review on the scene required when use of force happens. So if there is a use of force, the supervisor must report to the scene to review, and then at the there's also a command review of the completed incident report. Some opportunities for growth: continue a robust de-escalation policy, just like the use of force. We recommend that 300.3.4 chokeholds be removed from the use of force policy. And we want to encourage West Des Moines Police to be advocates to remove chokeholds from state of Iowa code, because currently it is part of the Iowa code. And what we're asking is that the West Des Moines Police Department are advocates to remove that from the Iowa code. We did also want to make sure to mention that given this was the main reason and focus for this task group to review, we were unable to see an example of use of force being fully administered to audit and share opinions because the example provided was incomplete. And according to Chief Scott, it's because there was such few incidents of use of force that they didn't have a lot to necessarily choose from. But at the same time, during the arrest, the body camera became disabled on the arresting officer. There were some other footage that was available as well, but we did not have an opportunity to see those. With regards to duty to intervene, some of the strengths that there is a policy in place and a requirement to intervene by any officer observing inappropriate behavior by another officer. Some opportunities for growth and more around some questions that we asked. So for instance, what would ensure that an officer who could be biased would intervene when witnessing inappropriate behavior by another officer and not condone or say it was justified? And another question was, is unconscious bias training enough? With regards to the complaint process and contacting the West Des Moines Police Department, the strengths that there is an established process for in-person, phone, written communication, or online for anyone to contact the West Des Moines Police Department. Opportunities for growth: evaluate the process and the materials. Just make sure that it is easy and people are comfortable making a complaint versus having to dig for how to report a complaint. And also educate the community on how and when to contact the West Des Moines Police Department. So for instance, making sure that all residents are aware of the non-emergent dispatch number 222-3321 to call instead of having to call 911 for non-emergency reasons. Data collection and reporting strengths. We saw and we found that there's new technology and reporting ensures early detection. There's a command review of data and reporting. Opportunities for growth include continue providing reliable and timely data around calls for service, use of force, and age, gender, and race. With regards to the Citizen Review and Advisory Board strengths is, for instance, this opportunity that we had this summer, a proactive outreach by the Mayor's office to convene a community task force to review the West Des Moines Police Department policies and procedures. Opportunities for growth would be to create an annual review process of all the West Des Moines civic services. So, for instance, police, fire, and EMS. Also, continue to diversify the police force and civic review board to ensure there is not bias nor unintended consequences from biased views or perspectives. And so just to wrap up, some final thoughts. That there is an opportunity for continued education through all ranks of the West Des Moines Police Department, particularly around cultures present in West Des Moines, as well as current trends and movements directly impacting police and society. So, for instance, bringing Black Lives Matter to the table, having conversations with the LGBTQ community and transgender community, the Muslims in our community, Sikhs, etc. So some of, I don't want to use the term marginal populations, but maybe some of the underrepresented populations in our community, just bringing them to the table and having conversations and just making sure that everybody feels that their voice is being heard. Also, we have to focus on continuing to build bridges and repair fractures within the community. We truly hope that this report serves as a bridge and not as a wall with regards to community West Des Moines as well and to the police department. That is our presentation, and we would love to entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay, questions from the council or Chief Scott? Anything anybody from the department wants to add? I appreciate all the work. Obviously, a great group, a lot of time and effort went into, a lot of thought went into this report, and we just don't want to put it in a file somewhere. We want to use it. I mean, my initial thought was maybe having the recommendations thoroughly vetted through the council public safety subcommittee. Let's go through the recommendations that are made here and have that committee go through them with our staff and then come back with next steps and a plan for that. I like the notion of an annual review. Again, we're working really hard to be an inclusive community. I mean, again, our survey, over 90% of our residents this year have confidence and trust in our public safety departments. So we're starting from the threshold of really excellence, but we want to take the next step, and I think this is a great step towards that. So
Yeah, and the only other thing that what we put together there's two documents that we shared with Ryan. So the presentation itself, and then there's the report. And so
Okay.
you definitely have that report attached that has much more that was in the presentation. And there are many other recommendations, but then
Great.
we as a group, in putting it together, open for other conversation, dialogue, clarification, et cetera, in hopes that that actually is what happens, that there's something done with it.
Well, maybe I could ask for one or two members of the committee to actually be part of the Public Safety Council Subcommittee discussion to go
that would
through
be
this.
great.
You know, let's dig into this
Yeah.
in a deep way and go through the analysis and recommendations and come back with next steps. And again, I mean, we can, you know, handle this one bite at a time. We don't have to do everything all at once, but look at the recommendations. Let's prioritize the ones that are most important first. And let's come up with maybe a phased approach of how we can do this, and then have an annual update review. Again, I mean, we're all trying to be better, so we don't have anything to hide, and we all are in this together.
Yeah.
So let's,
And there were lots of strengths, so we too were like to celebrate those things that are going well, but there are definitely opportunities that we could take advantage of as well to make
Sure.
it better.
okay. Any questions, comments? Yeah, Renee?
I do. I have some comments. First, before I get into my comments, I always really want to acknowledge our former city council member in the audience, Mr. Bob Parks, who really served his city well. Always like to greet and acknowledge him whenever he chooses to grace us with his presence. So it's good to see you, a former councilman.
Yeah, and you
Mr.
never
Parks.
change, Bob. I'm not sure what you do, but you're
Never
the same
ages.
as when I met you in 1995.
So anyway, good to see you as always. I want to first of all thank the task force. I really want to thank the task force. These are busy individuals, folks that have lots of stuff going on, and have really chosen to spend their summer months looking at this information and not glossing over it. I can tell by your reports that you really delve deep into lots of areas. And so my hat goes off to you. I would say my mask, but I'm keeping that on. But I want to thank you so very, very much for all the work that you have done. This is just the beginning. I really like your suggestion, Mr. Mayor, of having, and I chair public safety, Russ is also a liaison, of really taking these recommendations. Let's get a little past the holiday or whatever, and let's start taking these recommendations and looking at them one by one and seeing which ones we have made progress, because it's all for naught if we allow this document to sit on a shelf and collect dust. All of your work is in vain. So you have my commitment that I will make sure as chair of public safety that there is voice to these recommendations with Chief Scott and his staff in evaluating and prioritizing. So that's really critical. I did have one question. There was something in the report that said bias policing quarterly results reported to. Their quarterly results are reported. Who are those? Who is it reported to? The
So
bias
it's
policy.
inside of the police department themselves, so they do their own reporting. And then
Okay.
it is shared quarterly to proactively share if there potentially are issues with a particular officer or not. But if there is an instance, the reporting that they're doing is catching it, but also the quarterly report out adds a little more teeth to what's happening. So it's
Okay.
actually proactively pulling data to check and review on a quarterly basis
Okay.
and talk about what's happening.
Oh, okay. And so, Chief, I don't know whether that's something that can come to public safety occasionally, so we're aware of some of that, or whether that's something you want to just keep in-house. But knowing the results would be helpful for me as chair of public safety, but what are your, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Actually, Councilwoman Hardman, Mayor and Council, one of the changes actually that was made during this process, so this was a living, breathing thing. We would take the discussions that we'd had, we'd take them back, we'd have our internal discussions, and we'd say, okay, what makes sense out of the conversation we had at our last task force meeting? And so one of the things that made sense was we were expecting supervisors to be doing these audits based on some new technology. They hit on a lot of things that we have going on, so there's a huge problem here. But one of the things that we were able to change was we were expecting our supervisors to be doing these audits, but there was really no accountability. And so after this discussion, we were like, well, where is the accountability? And so now the accountability is they have to run that through their chain of command, and ultimately it'll get up to me. So that was a win as a result of the conversations that we're having. But the one thing, since I got the floor for a second, I want to put a huge shout out to all the task force. This was huge. This wasn't just diving into use of force policies. This was a very intense,
Comprehensive.
process that we thought, might start it out with a schedule, and it was, we'll meet, 5 times, for a couple hours, which we were never there for a couple hours, and it turned out to be months. So I just, to everybody that served on the task force, just a huge shout out of our appreciation of the police department. Our eyes were open. We had good dialogue and good conversations, and we're able to see things maybe differently than what we did before. But I can't thank them enough for the commitment that they put into this.
And thank you, Chief. And while you're there, I just want to share something with you just this week. And I want to compliment you, quite frankly. There was a situation that happened this week where a young African-American 9-year-old was walking her dog. And somebody called, and the police came out and I guess was talking to her. She was traumatized. Her dad or stepfather came and was livid, came to the office, to your office, to find you, and you talked with him. And I talked with him later that day, and he was extremely pleased with the ability to talk with you, to share his frustrations, to talk about how he felt, and the actions that you guys took, I think, to go talk to the man that made the initial call. So we're about trying to highlight when things are going well as well, because I know sometimes you feel like it's always negative. It isn't that way, and things get out in the community one way, but when things are turning around in a positive way, I need to help shed light on that. The father was very happy with your discussion. You could have been standoffish, you could have not taken time to visit, but that's not your style. So I want to tell you that I appreciate that interaction, which could have had such major, major negative effects. But the power of listening to a voice, the power of empathizing when people feel like things are just not comfortable, that is what changes things. That's what community policing is. It's listening and empathizing. And I got back with the gentleman, and he was very pleased. So I want to share that.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other?
I just want to say how much I appreciate this committee and the police for going through this as well. This is, I'm kind of jealous that you did this deep dive on that. I wanted to do that myself and take a look at everything, all the policies and procedures we do, because I look at this as a process improvement program that we're trying to do. We want to be the best that we possibly can be. If there are things that we can do better, then we need to do that better, regardless of how the performance has been. We could be performing wonderfully, but we just want to be the best that we can be, and we want to review all these processes and try to put the best policies in place that we possibly can. And you guys have a lot of great recommendations there, and really appreciate how much you delved into this and the recommendations that you brought forward. I would make a comment on one recommendation that I thought we actually amended the state code. I think this was something that was led by Raz Smith and Akil Abdul Samad and the governor and the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats. I thought we outlawed the chokehold And so is that just something we need to update our city code to reflect, or, but I thought that was in a bill at the end of session last year.
Is actually, and that came out, it's in Kalia, it came through Lexipol, internally, and we received the actual bill. But where the chokehold sits now is, it's considered a form of deadly force. So only in a situation where you would be justified to use deadly force could you use a chokehold. That was straight out of state code.
And that's the policy, that's what we're referencing, saying that West Des Moines is saying we are not, we are against chokeholds, but it's sitting in Iowa code. And so for us, we're saying advocacy is where we could
Okay.
make impact of that. We're saying our police department, we're not using chokeholds, but yet someone still could if they wanted to, because it's sitting there in code. Or we're saying deadly force is, last, what we talked about of like, in essence of taking a life. The chokehold and the way in which it takes a life is much more egregious, but that, because it's still sitting there, that would mean that we'd all have to advocate for it to be removed.
Okay. And I like the mayor's recommendation. Let's bring this to public safety. Let's delve into this. Let's go recommendation by recommendation, and let's talk about each one of these things and see how we can implement these. This is something that the council's been very interested in and that we want to get done. And as Renee said, we can't let them sit on a shelf. We've got to implement these things and try to have the best policies and procedures that we can going forward. So thank you for everybody on the task force for these recommendations and for delving so far into this.
And you might help share with the city manager and Renee who the one or two people are off your committee that would like to be part of those Public Safety Council Committee meetings to
Yeah,
go
we can
through
ask
it.
that question.
Okay. Mr. Maxwell, thank you. We'll give you the rest of the night off.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you.
All right, city council reports, Matt?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick updates here. We had a MAC meeting last week. There was a presentation by Sally Dix with Bravo about the impact that the organization's had, and I've shared that here a couple times. A large part of the conversation during the MAC meeting was about COVID-19 and discussion about how can the community make a concerted effort regionally to try to have an impact on this. And so there are a couple ideas that are out there. I shared something that I've learned here recently about maybe how we can use some technology to help move things forward. And I'm happy to say that as a result of that, earlier today, myself, Supervisor McCoy, Supervisor Conley, Helen Eddy with the Polk County Public Health, Tom Haddon, and Councilman Trimble participated in a call to see what we might be able to do regionally to really try to make an impact and improve the fight against this virus. And so I was happy to see that. I think in the meantime, we have to all continue doing everything we can, including wearing a mask and social distancing, especially as we get closer to these the holidays where people want to be near each other and how difficult that can be. We had a public services meeting also last week, and there was a lot of conversation. COVID came up there, and one of the things we talked about was, when folks have to quarantine and you get a snowstorm, how are we going to make sure that that our roads are clear? And it sounds like the folks with public services, Brett and his team, really put a lot of thought into that, and I'm glad to hear that I think they have a pretty good plan going forward. One of the things we did talk about, we have on the agenda tonight, is a recplex, and there's been a lot of amendments to the change orders, I should say, to that. And I think if you drive by there, it looks great, but it looks very similar to how it looked a couple months ago. And so I know Tom Haddon, who's on the call here, is having conversations, trying to move that forward a little bit. It sounds like maybe there's been just some issues that have held things up, and I think Tom's in the process of moving it forward. And then finally, I just want to take a moment to recognize Officer Kaufman. It was a little over a week ago that he was involved in a pretty serious accident while he was serving our community. And it's just an important reminder of how much that our public safety officers put on the line every time they go out and serve our community. So I want him and his family to know that he's certainly in my family's thoughts and prayers, and we certainly wish him a full and quick recovery. So that's all at this time, Your Honor.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Matt. Kevin?
Nothing this time.
Greg?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I just wanted to issue a thank you to the team that just presented, because it was, you kind of spoke about building bridges, and gosh, the communication, the working together, the goals that we have as a city to come together and come up with a way forward that's going to make a difference for people, I think was fantastic. So really, really outstanding work to the entire team. This week we had a Chamber of Commerce meeting, I guess it was last week, and in addition to telling Catherine and her team that they do an amazing job, I wanted to reach out and encourage that the businesses of West Des Moines kind of team up with schools in the city in making a community where we all focus on really masking up for the purpose of stopping COVID spread as much as we possibly can. I'm not sure what the governor's going to say in a couple minutes, but as a city, what we can do is continually encourage that everyone works together to do their part. And so I just wanted to say that that happened at the chamber meeting. And that's the end of my report for right now.
Russ?
No report at this time, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a couple of things I'd like to share. I, too, would like to share my prayers and thoughts with Officer Kaufman. I've been love the updates, and hoping that things are moving well with him. So we want to give him our best regards. I had a wonderful time on Veterans Day at Valley Junction, where I read the city's proclamation for the veterans. It was a very nice social distance gathering of veterans and their family members, and it's just really neat to go out there to the VFW post number 8879 on 128 5th Street to thank the men and women for their service and their sacrifice so that we stay free. So was honored to represent the city in that regard. I was a liaison to the Human Rights Commission meeting that we had last Thursday, and we did elect new officers. So Mindy Benganot will be the new chair at the first of the year, and Chandler Collins will be vice president. And so we do it at an appropriate time. I want to thank Sanjita for her service on the commission as serving as chair. And again, she will be moving on and elected new officers. That meeting also spent some time talking about the Martin Luther King activity that's going to happen in January. So in interest of time, we could talk about that as we get closer to it, but look for information about how you can engage in this wonderful celebration in January, even though much of it will be virtual or some type of hybrid. Library, I'm a liaison also to the library. They had a special meeting last week to move to curbside pickup model in light of COVID, and to close the library to walk-in visits in interest of trying to make sure we don't have as many people gathered in one place at a time. So I applaud them for holding that special meeting and doing what I think is right for the city. I did participate in a press conference last week as well about encouraging a mask requirement. I know that has some implications for folks. It doesn't for me, because my number one stance is safety. And I too want to echo my thoughts and feelings about trying to make sure that people mask up during this time of COVID, where it's on the rise. And so as a public official, I get letters on both sides, but so that there's no one out there that questions where I stand on the side of masking up. So I'm encouraging everyone to do that, and encouraging everyone to do their fair share of trying to keep this community safe. And that's the only way we can keep the economy going. So just want everybody to know where I stand, because I do get calls and letters. And I don't want to hide behind that. I want to share firsthand where I stand, mask up everybody for everybody's safety. Thank you.
Okay. Tom, I know you're in your office. Anything you want to share as far as city manager report?
No report at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Item 4 is the consent agenda. Are there any items that any council member wants to pull? Otherwise, I take a motion for all of them.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All those items are approved. Item 5, old business. 5A, Glen Oaks PUD, Parcel L, northwest corner of Raccoon River and Grand Avenue. Amend the plan unit development to remove a portion of Parcel L from the PUD and consistency zone the property to office JCG Equity LLC. We have 2 ordinances for the second, third reading, and final adoptions. Do we have to take them separately, Ryan, or together?
They would need to be separately.
Okay. So I need a motion for 5A1.
Move consideration of the second reading.
Second.
Any questions or comments on this ordinance? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ryan?
5 yes, an ordinance to amend the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019, in ordinance numbers 1007, 1043, 1047, 1063, 1156, 1568, and 1720 pertaining to plan unit development, district regulations, and guidelines.
Move approval of the second reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Russ?
Move waiver of the third reading and adoption in final form.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That ordinance is approved. 5A2.
Move consideration of the second reading.
Second.
Questions or comments on this ordinance? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
5 yes, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map in the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title IX zoning, Chapter 4 zoning districts and map.
Move approval of the second reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Russ?
Move waiver of third reading and adoption in final form.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That ordinance is approved. 5B, Glen Oaks, south of Mill Civic Parkway at Glen Oaks Drive. Amend the plan unit development to remove PUD parcels K and K1, add property to parcel E and change the zoning from open space to medium density residential, and add property to parcel G and change the zoning from open space to residential single family. GOCC Investments LLC. This also is an ordinance for the second, third reading, and final adoption, and there are no changes from the first reading.
Move consideration of the second reading. Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ryan?
5 yes, an ordinance to amend the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019, in ordinance numbers 1007, 1043, 1047, 1063, 1156, 1568, and 1720 pertaining to plan unit development, district regulations, and guidelines.
Move approval of second reading. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Kevin?
Move waiver in third and adopt in final form. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that ordinance is adopted and approved. Item 6, public hearings. Item 6A, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider amendment to City Code Title 5 Police Regulations and Title 9 Zoning, modify regulations pertaining to keeping of animals, initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
October 30th, 2020, in the Des Moines Register.
Have we received any written comments?
The Plan and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 5 yes, 2 no, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the ordinance amendment.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience that'd like to address the City Council on item 6A. And again, if you're on the phone with us and you want to speak, make sure you hit star 6.
Can anybody?
Hello.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, my name is Lizzie Gilman, and I live at 4307 Aspen Drive. My husband and I have 2 children, and we would absolutely love to have backyard chickens, just a couple, totally no roosters. But we'd like to have some laying hens to teach our children responsibility and to also have them as pets. Because COVID has kind of forced us to stay on our property more, we would like to enjoy it more. And in our eyes, that is with chickens. So we're learning to live a little more sustainably, and we'd love to have backyard chickens be a part of that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. Anyone else want to share as a part of the public hearing?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
All right, my name is Brian Fox. I'm 208 Hillside Avenue. And I would also like to have the right to have chickens. I've spoken a couple times at different, city council and planning and zoning. And I just want to say specifically that I'm not very happy with with the current change that is proposed, because I think it's too restrictive. I don't think that it brings us anywhere close to being in line with cities like Waukee and Des Moines on either side of us. I think that it limits people that live in places like Valley Junction, or honestly most properties, from having chickens. Nobody's asking for roosters. Nobody's asking for having 30 birds or anything like that. Mostly just anything that anybody wants is a couple laying hens. And exactly like Lizzie said, I think it'd be great to be able to have West Des Moines be a city that lives out a sustainable lifestyle. And that would be an extremely nice thing to be able to have for it's something that's very important to a lot of us. So I would like to have chickens. I would have the city code updated to allow that, but I don't think that the current updates reflect a way that makes that actually feasible for most residents.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Anyone else for the public hearing?
Hi, are you able to hear me? Yes. My
Yes.
name is Sabrina Robello. I live at 205 Hillside Avenue in Valley Junction. And as it's written right now, the restriction on keeping animals is a little too restrictive. I live on a lot that's about 55 feet by 100 feet, and the amendment, I think, would still not allow me to keep chickens on the property. So I'd really like to have you guys take another look at that and maybe amend some of the wording if possible. Like a lot of the other people, I am interested in keeping chickens for sustainability purposes and because we're stuck at home all the time. So it'd be cool if you guys could take a look. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think I heard someone else as well.
Yes, hi. My name is Laura Wilson. I'm at 3504 Boulder Drive, and I really just want to emphasize what everyone else has said. For sustainability purposes, it really fits into our lifestyle to have chickens. We also have young children, and I think it's a great opportunity to teach them about life outside of just living in a city, and taking care of animals, give a little glimpse into where our food comes from. There's a lot of learning to be done with chickens, and also fun. I mean, as everyone has said, we're stuck at home, and having an opportunity to have some excitement and something new and something that we can learn from would be wonderful. And also, it would just be another way that West Des Moines would be a cool community. People, that are looking for places to move, that's something that appeals to a lot of people, especially young people. So I think it would be another way for West Des Moines to be an innovative community. So yes, please,
Okay.
chickens.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else for the public hearing? Okay. Hearing no one else, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Like I mentioned when we started this, every year we get the same request, and we do a really deep dive. I see that Development and Planning Council Committee met 4 times this year on this issue alone. So maybe before I ask for comments or questions, I don't know, Lynn, maybe could someone just give us an overview? Clearly the focus is on chickens. Can you just give us the overview of the issues, what was considered, what changes are being made, and maybe why some of the requested changes aren't being made, at least at this time?
Yep. Lynn Tweet, Director of Development Services. Can you hear fine through this thing? Really, there is not really any changes being made to what code says today. By code today, you can have chickens on a 40,000 square foot lot if it's zoned residential estate or if it's open space. That's one piece that we're just tweaking. What we're doing is just putting it as a 40,000 square foot lot across all residential districts, which would allow you, if you do happen to have a larger lot, but you're in an RS district, you would still have that opportunity to go to the Board of Adjustment to potentially have those chickens. So we're not changing anything in that aspect. This all started is really a way to just try to figure out how to classify them. As you heard just on the phone call, people consider them their pets. I don't have anything in my code that would say a chicken is a pet. I have a chicken as an animal wild by nature, and that's really a default classification. So we looked for a way to kind of say, this is how we can classify these. We run into the same thing with potbelly pigs, quail, pigeons. There's all sorts of different animals that don't really fit nicely into one category. So what we did is we actually decided through the zoning aspect, we wanted to regulate only those things from a use standpoint. Everything else should be under the animal control ordinance. So this is a little bit twofold. As we updated things in the zoning ordinance, we also had to update things in the animal control ordinance. From a zoning standpoint, we're really coming up with two definitions, agricultural production commercial and agricultural production personal. So the commercial is pretty obvious. We had that in our code already. That's truly the farms that are out there operating. That's their livelihood, is having the animals. The animal production personal is then where we can catch or classify the chickens, anything that's kind of ag-related, and the definition is in here. And the key to that is it's anything that could be used for that production. It doesn't mean that you have to be doing that production. We've had the argument that, yeah, I have chickens, but I don't eat the eggs. Well, that doesn't necessarily make them a pet any more than it did a chicken to begin with. So that's really what we are doing with the zoning ordinance. And then, like I said, there's some clarifications that came along with it into the animal control ordinance. So you're right, we did meet with the subcommittee 4 different times, and it really all stemmed by trying to figure out how to write that definition. It kind of snowballed into a lot of the chicken question. As you know, beginning of the summer, we had 3 or 4 people that stood up at the dais and again asked that question. And you're absolutely right, we get that question a lot, is can I have the chickens? And the answer has always been only if you're in that RE district with a 40,000 square foot lot. So with that, we've left everything the same. We did a survey of the communities around us. It's a mix. Some of the communities allow them, some of them don't allow them, some of them had other lot sizes, some of them allow a lot or higher number. It's kind of all over the board. Where we landed was just staying things as status quo. If you want us to do something to have it be less in the acreage, that is something that you would have to direct us to do. In your packet, we actually included, I can figure out where exactly it is, the page right before the ordinance that's in here. Some of the concerns that we have with allowing chickens, and this comes from police comments, animal control comments, just different staff aspects, research in general, but is the staff time to catch escaped chickens. They're not labeled in any way, they're not tagged, there's really no way to know who had them unless they're licensed within the city. We don't really have that provision right now. Certainly nuisances, which is a subjective, what may not be a nuisance to one person can be a nuisance to another person. So that is always a concern. Neighborhood complaints and conflicts. What do you do if the neighbor's dog gets out and kills your chickens? What does that do to that environment? What do we do when they're no longer producing the eggs? Sometimes when people don't want them, they end up at the animal shelter. We did check with furry friends, I believe Tom did, and they'll take them. That's not what they want, and they don't really have a means to do much with them. Some people say, well, there's always a farmer that wants them. A lot of farmers don't want them because they don't know what diseases they may have. They don't necessarily want them either. So it's a question there. And then when they're no longer producing those eggs, do they count in the total number? If we were to say you could have 6, are they part of that 6, or do you get to have 6 hen producing plus however many that just happen to continue to be living? Leads to the request for other animals. Like I said, we've had the potbelly pigs, we've had the goats, we've had other fowls, the ducks, the chickens, the quail, or the pigeons, the quail. So it kind of snowballs into other things. And then there is some studies that do say that there is some bird flu aspects that can come with having the chickens. It's not a high percentage, but it is something that's out there. So that's kind of where we landed on. That's why we're staying status quo with this. If we are going to allow chickens on a smaller lot, there's going to have to be some performance standards that'll have to be written into code
And I saw planning and zoning voted 5-2 to support the recommendation tonight. The 2 dissenting votes, I think if I read right, suggested that we should have smaller lots.
Yeah, yeah, and they initially were saying a half acre. They admittedly said that may even in their eyes maybe too big, but it was the recommendation, the majority voted to leave it as it is. If we do change it, they'd like to see the lot size reduced.
Okay. So,
Lynn, I'm sorry,
oh,
Mayor.
I was going to see if anybody from development and planning had any overall comments first and then take questions. Anybody on that committee? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I want to say that there was a lot of time that went into this. I can think of a couple mornings where we spent probably a part of a full hour walking through this. Mayor, I think one of the things that, is important as I look at the ordinance is making sure that we can have a fair and uniform application of the ordinance across our city and across, whoever wants to have chickens or not have chickens. And part of what came out of one of the last meetings was the fact that, hens don't lay eggs forever. And so we've got situations where somebody may not be able to have any pigeons because they don't lay eggs, but you could have a bunch of hens that don't lay eggs. And the concept being, we should allow this because we should provide some greater flexibility for those that want to be able to have an animal that lays eggs. And so I said, well, help me understand how we can draft an ordinance that can carefully meet those requirements of uniformly applying this, because I don't want to have somebody stand before me and say, well, how come this person can have a chicken that doesn't lay any eggs, and I have these pigeons that don't lay any eggs, and I can't have it? It was inconsistent. And that's just one of several different examples. We definitely spent a lot of time in this, and I spoke with Jessica earlier today, walking through this, seeing if there were other angles, and I know that this is something that they're continuing, to evaluate. But I think at this point, this is where we're at, and I know Tom mentioned during the subcommittee, let's bring it to a vote.
Okay, Renee?
Yeah, I sit on the same committee with Councilman McKinney as well, and gosh, a city girl from Chicago, I never thought I'd spend this much time on chickens, so I'm learning a lot, which is good. And, I think the folks that want chickens do have a voice, and they have a desire, and I listen to them, and, I'm really conflicted, because I understand that most people don't want chickens outside of a certain lot size, but, this world is not equal, and not everyone gets to have a place on 1 acre, okay? It just isn't. And so for the folks in Valley Junction, I know P&Z, it was at 20,000, that didn't pass. What's an average lot size for that particular area? And maybe Kevin, is it 10,000 square feet?
5,000.
20 or?
5,000.
5,000 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Yep, the 50 by 100 that they talked about down in
Yeah.
Prospect or Hillside
Okay.
area, that's typical.
So, the compromise part of me was trying to say, maybe we could do 20, you know what I mean, and try to work this through. So, so you're saying the average is about 5,000?
Down there it is.
Pavilion?
There would be some that would have larger lots. There's some lots that are extra deep, but most of them are 50 foot wide, and most of them are about 100 feet in depth. So they're roughly in that 5,000.
And even if-
7,500 is probably,
That's stretching it, I would guess. Yeah.
Pardon, Kevin?
7,500 is probably stretching it.
So
yeah.
it's below 10,000 on
Oh,
average.
yeah.
So I struggle, because I've looked at some of the differences in the other cities that allow it, and, we're a city that wants to have diversity in how we allow people to live and what they want to do, but, I understand where we're at today, and we've got to call this to a vote. I know we've had 4 meetings on it. But I just want to say for the record, I do empathize with the folks that really want these chickens for the right reasons, and kind of are a victim because their lot size is average, as Kevin Trillian said, 5,000, maybe 7,500 at the most.
Here, I'll just say, I'll echo that, Councilwoman Hardman. I certainly empathize with the situation, and I appreciate, Lynn, your time Dick, your time and the time of everybody on the committee, because, we spent more time on chicken this year than I think probably any other development or item that's come before our development and planning committee. So I appreciate the deep dive everybody took into this, and it's not an easy issue to go through.
Well, and I'm sure maybe next year we'll get another shot at looking at it again based on the last 4 or 5 years. My other comment is, we try to figure out ways to make these kind of issues win-win, and Julia McGuire was here a month or so ago. The whole community garden concept came up because we had a number of people in apartments who said, I'd love to have my own garden. So we created the community garden thing, which has been wildly popular. So I think we continue to try to figure out ways to find a balance here on win-wins. It's not that we're opposed to this. We're just trying to figure out how do you do it so in fairness it doesn't adversely impact people that are interested, and there's obviously some spacing issue here that we're dealing with. Anyway, I don't want residents to think that we're not open to this notion, because I think we were one of the first to ever start the community garden aspect of this, so that people that don't have the ability to have their own garden can actually come and do gardening. So I'll ask for a motion and a second on this, and my guess is we'll see in a year if things have changed or other ways to look at this to maybe reduce that in a way that's acceptable.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
Is there any other questions or comments?
I do have one question based on a conversation I had with Councilman McKinney earlier this afternoon in regards to this item. I just want to make sure a lot of what we're doing is clarifying and cleaning up what we've got in place right now. I just want to make sure that what we're doing now doesn't change something for somebody that, say is allowed to have a certain number of, wild animals or otherwise, and now we're moving that number down. Are we changing it for anybody, or are we just basically cleaning up and clarifying
Yeah,
what we have now?
We really
Wild
are
animals
not,
aren't allowed, are they?
yeah, we're not changing, we're not going down in the lot size or anything.
Okay.
Like I said, the only thing we're changing from a zoning standpoint is we used to say it's allowed in the RE zoning district.
Right, now it can be
Which by
anywhere.
code is supposed to have 40,000 square foot lots.
Right.
However, we have some RE lots that are not 40,000 square feet, generally when we've annexed them in. So we said if the intent was to have this larger lot, let's just put it by a square footage
Right,
and put it across all the residential lots. So that's really the only thing we're changing is
okay,
we're just clarifying that it has to be a 40,000 square foot lot minimum.
okay, sounds good. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, so the first reading's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ryan?
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019, Title V Police Regulations, Chapter 3 Animal Control, and Title 9 Zoning pertaining to the keeping of animals.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the first reading is approved. Item 6B, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider amendment number 10 to the amended and restated Mills Parkway Urban Renewal Area initiated by the city of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 6, 2020, the Des Moines Register.
Have you received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on item 6B. All right, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. I think we're just simply updating the description of the ice and turf sports complex description, and really no other changes being made.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the amendment's approved. Item 6C, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider purchase agreement with Hope Development and Realty LLC and Daniel J. Stanborough, acquisition of property located at 7630 Ashworth Road, initiated by the city of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 11th, 2020, in the Des Moines Register.
Have you received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on item 6C. All right, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. There's no outstanding issues, and this acquisition is necessary to facilitate the construction of 76th Street.
Move approval.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that item is approved. Item 6D, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider the conveyance of excess property to Warren County Conservation, approximately 5.84 acres located at the southwest corner of Veterans Parkway and the Great Western Bike Trail, initiated by the City of West Des Moines. This was continued from the November 2nd City Council agenda. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
October 28th, 2020, the Des Moines Register.
They received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the City Council on item 6D. All right, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. It's a resolution to approve the conveyance of property. And as it's noted in here, due to the size and the location, the property is not usable as a standalone parcel.
Move for approval.
What's that?
I said move for approval, but you were
Okay.
still going,
Is there
sorry.
a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that item is approved. 6E, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider lease of property to the Iowa Armory Board, lots 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Brubaker Estates, initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 11th, 2020, the Des Moines Register.
Have you received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the City Council on item 6E. Hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. It's a resolution to approve the lease, and this came through Finance and Administration Council Committee.
Move for approval?
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That item is approved. Item 6F, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider issuance of not to exceed $17 million of general obligation urban renewal bonds initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
October 30th, 2020, the Des Moines Register.
Have you received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on item 6F. Okay, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. I think we have 2 resolutions we can take together, can't we, Ryan?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments?
You know,
I
Mayor,
just, go ahead. Go ahead, Matt, you first.
yeah, I was just going to say, I received an email today, and you know, some folks had, or a gentleman had concern about the expense of painting the different, I think it's called a Shero, or the markings, if you will, on the street. I know this came before Public Services, I want to say earlier this year, or at least the concept did. Maybe if Sally or somebody could be, you know, able to help us understand the importance of why this is done. I have a sense that this is a public safety related item, but just given the email I received today, I thought maybe we could.
You're on the next.
Looking at G.
Yeah, we're on F, the $17 million general obligation.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
all right. No worries, Rusty.
So, yeah, so the only thing I want to.
Comments.
Yeah, hold those
Kinda like-
comments.
I just want to point out here that, you know, while we're basically having a public hearing for $17 million worth of urban renewal bonds, I want to point out that as part of the funding for this, we've got $12.2 million in private donations, and I want to, you know, thank the people that donated to this project. And I also want to thank our city manager, Tom Haddon, and Deputy City Manager Jamie Letzring, and others who really worked hard to get that $12.2 million in private donations, so this could be a public-private partnership, and we could bring this Recplex to the city. So I know that they worked really hard to get that, and there's, as you can see, a diverse source of funds that are going to fund this Recplex, and just appreciate all their efforts on this entire project, but especially when it comes to raising $12.2 million for this.
And add the 1.7 in grants.
Yep,
When you add that to it as well, that's a big
absolutely.
shot in the arm.
Yep, for sure.
Well, as it noted, these are taxable. We usually sell tax exempt. These are taxable because portions of this facility are going to be rented to the private profit motivated tenants. And so we'll get additional revenue for that. But this is going to be a huge draw for our community and promote a lot more athletic and diverse opportunities So we all, I think, believe that this is going to be a great amenity for our community and will benefit, everybody in the Midwest actually for the opportunities that they can have. So this will support our hotels, our shopping, our restaurants, and our youth athletic opportunities.
And this is phenomenal that they also worked hard to make sure that this thing's going to be self-sustaining, because a lot of these quality of life projects, as you know, are not self-sustaining. And they've worked really hard with the finance team, and I think we even hired a consultant to make sure that we could make that happen. And so this is very impressive, and I appreciate all their efforts on that front.
We'll use your terminology, Russ, game changer.
Game changer. It is.
That's his favorite word, game changer.
It is my favorite word. And this is a game
games
changer.
played there too.
There will be. There will be. And video games too. So.
Okay.
All righty.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, those resolutions are approved. 6G, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider the 2020 pavement markings and on-street bike markings program initiated by the city of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice is published?
November 6, 2020, in the Des Moines Register.
Have you received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the city council on item 6G. All right, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. We have two resolutions and a motion which we can take together. Matt had some questions. I think I got, I'm not sure if it was the same resident, but once or twice a year I'll get the same.
Same.
And I know that Tom's facilitated responses back for the previous one, so I sent the one I got on to Tom and asked Kim and Sally to respond to the resident. But I don't know if there's anyone here that would like to respond to Matt's question.
Mayor, Brian Hemesat, city engineer. I'm not in the chambers today, but I can sure address this. I actually had Eric Peterson write me up an explanation of this, and I'll give you kind of the Cliffs Notes version of his explanation. We have a bicycle master plan that was developed in 2015. It's input from with input from city staff, residents, bicycle enthusiasts, and it was approved by the Bicycle Advisory Commission and the City Council. Basically, there's a map showing all of these bicycle facilities across the city, and essentially these on-street markings aren't intended to tell bicyclists that they are allowed to ride on the street. Bicyclists can ride on the street, on any street in West Des Moines except interstates. So the primary benefits of them are helping people that may be unfamiliar with the area to guide them. They also serve as a warning to drivers that there may be a higher number of bicyclists on the street. And then they also serve as a reminder to drivers that bicyclists have a right to use the roadway and they must share the road. So one of the things to keep in mind, though, is the avid bicyclist. It's really not, these sharrows are not intended for avid bicyclists. It's more intended for the average bicyclist. Avid bicyclists, for the most part, feel comfortable riding on EP True and Ashworth, and I see them every day when I'm out running. So they're comfortable on those types of roads. This is intended more for your average bicyclist, your parents with kids, and that sort of thing. So hopefully that clears some things up. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Brian, don't we also, though, on all of these streets put the signs that says bike route?
We do.
Okay. And so the map that's in our packet, I think I just put it in, no? The map that's in our packet that has all these various lines and it's talked about the pavement marking program, that's for all of the markings that's out there that's being done, not just the bike routes, correct?
That's right. Yep. There's also street center lines and the skip dashes, the white skip dashes, and that sort of thing.
Because it's no secret that I am not a big fan of these sharrows and the cost associated with it. And I hear from people on a regular basis as to, why are we doing this? And, what's the benefit and whatnot. But if I'm looking at this correctly, we're spending $100,000 for these sharrows, correct? When you take what it's gonna do for the grinding of the streets and then putting the,
Yes.
now, is this a once a year type thing? Or is this gonna be twice a year like they've been doing with the paint?
Well, these are put on with durable pavement markings, and they're ground in, so they're actually not updated annually. These are updated on more of a 4 to 5 year basis. So we're either coming back and fixing ones that have been there for several years, or we are adding new ones.
So by doing the durable pavement marking for the sharrows, we're actually gonna then, I guess, reduce what we've been spending. Because they were painting them twice a year. Spring and about this time of year, just in time for snow.
No, we don't paint these twice a year.
Okay.
I guess the only comment that I would make, Kevin, if you remember, and Steve, years ago when the Bicycle Advisory Commission came together and they asked us for various things, they were really working us hard on trying to get bike lanes, if you remember that.
Yep.
And, those bike lanes are like $1 million a lane mile. In addition, on some of the streets that we currently have here now, it would, we didn't have the room. And we would have to, narrow the roads, and it would lead to congestion and various other things. And some people say that's not the case. I think it is. And so what they did, and to their credit, is they realized that they were facing some resistance on the bike lanes and the streets at $1 million a lane mile. And they said, this is the low-hanging fruit that we as a Bicycle Advisory Commission would like you to consider then, are these sharrows. And so that's what we've done. And we've spent, maybe more money than any of us would care to on some of these sharrows, but it sure beats the $1 million a lane mile
I don't
on
disagree
the
with
bike
that.
lanes. So, but, I think, Brian, your comment, it's in the bicycle master plan or whatever. I guess my question is, how many more streets are these going on before we just maintain? I mean, are we going to add them to more and more streets? I mean, we haven't reached the final cost of these things. When are we going to be done with adding new ones, I guess? That may be a difficult question to answer tonight, but.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's something I can definitely look into and respond back to you guys with.
Okay.
So Brian, all of the sharrows are gonna be going to this durable pavement marking.
I believe if there's grinding involved, that's what we do. We use the durable pavement markings, because it would just be a monumental task to have to go back and repaint those, every or twice a year. And a lot of our pavement markings are going to these durable pavement markings, because it's just too much for us to handle to paint all these lines every year, twice a year.
I don't disagree with that, and I know that's what they've done in the past, and that's what I'm asking. Are all of the sharrows, or are we gonna is this cost just taking part of the sharrows we've got out there now, or is this all of the sharrows?
I don't know the answer to that. These are all questions that I can definitely get back with you on.
But unfortunately, we got to vote on this tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
Understood.
But I remember, because I was on the council on the Public Services Committee when I think it was federal environmental rules changed the paint that we could use.
Yeah, it's water-based.
And so that changed the whole game about, okay, we're gonna have to do this a couple times a year for everything.
Right.
And that's when they investigated doing the grinding and putting them below the wear and tear. But it was being driven by the changes in the environmental law and the paint you could use.
Right.
And so I think the city's been, since that day, has been trying to figure out from a budget standpoint, priority standpoint, how do we get all the markings on our street to be the ones that are below the street level to try to, one, make sure people can see them, and two, we don't have to do it so often. So whether or not we're 100% there, I don't know, but I know that's been a huge initiative for a number of years to get there. But look, our CIP budget's over $100 million this year, so we're adding a lot of streets to the system. But at least, that's been a priority since that environmental law change.
Maybe we could bring this thing through the Public Works Subcommittee and figure out, how many more of these new markings are going down, how much additional cost we're going to be taking on, and,
Sounds like Brian might do that research and just get us a memo on how close are we to getting 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something I can get real quick and get out to you guys in an email.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So someone want to move 6G 1, 2, and 3?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Item 6H, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider the 2020 Stormwater Intake Repair Program initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 6, 2020, in the Des Moines Register.
Received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
Right, now be the time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the City Council on item 6H. Okay, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Again, we have two resolutions and a motion which we can take together, and this came through the Public Services Council Committee.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I do have questions. I see this was a split vote. I can hear from the Public Services. Was this a split vote on the subcommittee, or no?
No?
I don't think so.
No, it says, it says that we
Okay.
voted yes.
Are we on 6H?
Yes.
Okay. I see, okay. All right, I see that lightly highlighted. I didn't see that. Okay.
Okay. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Those items are approved. Item 7, new business. 7A, Willow Creek Row Homes, west side of Veterans Parkway at Southeast Salix Drive, subdivide property into 46 footprint lots for attached row homes, 6 outlots, and 1 public street lot, Jerry's Homes. This is a resolution to accept the surety and approval and release of the final plat, and there's no outstanding issues.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that resolution's approved. 7B, the Preserve Estates Plat 1, east side of Southwest Grand Prairie Parkway, south of the Raccoon River, subdivide property into 12 single-family lots and 1 street lot, Raccoon River Land Company, LLC. This is a resolution to accept the public improvements and approval and release of the final plat, and there's no outstanding issues.
Move approval. Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That resolution is approved. Item 7C, Amendment to City Code Title 10 Subdivision Regulations. Chapter 2, Plats and Procedures. Extend the time of preliminary plat approval is valid. City initiated. This is an ordinance for its first reading. And,
Move consideration of first reading.
yeah.
Second.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah. I just wanted to remark that this is a great example of the city being flexible. I had a conversation with Lynn earlier today about this specific change. And again, I just want to compliment them and just highlight that this really does demonstrate that our city is willing to be flexible and help out when there are weather-related events or acts of God, per se, that affect construction and development. So switching it from 12 months to 18 months, I'm very supportive, and I just want to thank Lynn for that conversation, because flexible is great.
Right. Lynn, I just want to clarify, the 12 months, you could ask for a 6-month extension. Is this 18 months with a 6-month extension, so it's actually 24 months?
Lynn Tweet, Director of Development Services, yeah, that's how
Okay.
it would be, is you
Okay.
could still ask for the extension if you're
Yeah.
running into
Well,
problems.
and this is really helpful in our environment because of the winter. I can tell you, working for a developer, you try to avoid construction in the wintertime if you can help it, because the cost to build in the wintertime are so much more. So you try to stage your development so that you don't have winter construction costs, because they're really, really expensive. So I echo Greg's comments. We appreciate looking out and some flexibility of it. Okay, someone, I guess, yeah, I did. Any other comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ryan?
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title 10 subdivision regulations, Chapter 2, plats and procedures to modify the time allowed between preliminary plat and final plat approvals.
Move approval first reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? First reading's approved. Item 8, there are no items to receive, file, and/or refer. Item 9, other matters. Are there any other matters that any council member would like to raise tonight?
I would just say that the governor put in place a mask mandate starting at midnight tonight and reduced the size of gatherings. And also, I think, banned youth sports. Bars have to close at 10 o'clock, bars and restaurants. So, we've received a bunch of emails, we've responded, the governor has the authority to do so. We've had conversations with the governor, we've shared our concerns, and she listened to those and she put that in place tonight, so.
Well, I knew there was a conference at 6, so I really appreciate that update. And so that it's statewide?
Statewide mask mandate,
Okay.
no more than 15 for gatherings inside, 30 outside. Youth sports are suspended.
Okay.
Okay. All right, appreciate
Bars and
that.
restaurants close at 10.
Okay.
And for how long, Russ, does it say?
I don't know how long.
I think it said December 10th.
Through December 10th, and then we'll
I
see.
believe that's what it
how it's
said.
going? Okay,
Yep.
all right.
So that the governor has made that announcement, there's no
Tonight.
further action needed on us other than encouraging folks to follow the
Right.
mandate?
Yep,
And
but
what are the, when, let's say folks in West Des Moines are walking around without it, what's the enforceability part of it?
that I don't know. I would assume that she's given the police authority to take action, but we'll have to learn of that. I don't know the specifics of that. I will tell you, I was encouraged by the conversation that Councilman McKinney and I and Tom and others had today about the contact tracing, and we are going to continue to pursue that and see if there's some way of, helping out in that regard on the contact tracing for people.
Well, and to get back, maybe to further answer Renee's question, I checked with Dick, and the proclamation that we did at the start of this basically gives our police department and staff the authority and the right to do what they need to do based on what she's directed. So we don't have to update it anymore. So there was some, based on what we did at the beginning, we want to make sure that we gave our staff the protection they needed to do the enforcement of things that came via her proclamations, and we didn't have to replicate those. So Dick looked at that again and said, there's nothing more we need to do. As she changes, our proclamation authorizes our staff to follow what the governor's requesting.
Yeah.
So, right, Dick?
So is there a luncheon tomorrow where the mayor is doing a state of the city? What's
Yes.
the attendance that's supposed to be like? Is that going to be?
Cancel that because it's 37 attending, so we'll go virtual on that, actually. The mayor agreed to go virtual on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, she had a lot of
Backup plan.
folks that wanted to have that update, and I've updated those slides from the chamber, so we'll go ahead and do it virtual tomorrow, just because so
Sounds
many
good.
folks have set
Can you
aside.
send that link to me?
Yeah, I'll send that link to you guys.
To all of us.
Sounds good. I look
And
forward
I'll
to
make
it.
sure first thing in the morning that we email you the presentation so that you guys can load it up for us. Okay.
Great, maybe we can get a photo off tonight of everybody wearing a mask too.
Sure.
Sure.
All right, well, I'm going to adjourn the meeting then. Thank you.
Yeah, I just,
Oh, sorry.
okay, I wanted to say that I know that the school board, West Des Moines School Board is really going through a lot too, and wrestling with these issues, trying to make big decisions. We have Lonnie Daphne here in the audience, who's a school board member. So we're all in this together,
Yep.
Lonnie, and trying to make sure that we protect the
I
kids
want to
and the
clarify
city.
one thing on
So
that.
appreciate the work that the school district is doing to handle day-by-day changes of what's going on. It's not easy work whatsoever.
I agree. You guys are doing a phenomenal job in a very difficult situation. My hat is off to you. You guys have been doing a great, great job.
I just want to clarify one thing on the proclamation. I'm going to read this. It says, "The proclamation requires that when people are in an indoor public space and unable to social distance for 15 minutes or longer, masks are required to be worn. So if you run into a convenience store and come back out in 3 or 4 minutes, then you're not required by this to have a mask on. If you're in a grocery store shopping for more than 50,
new governors?
that's the governor's, yes.
Well, we'll have to go and delve into it and see all the
So,
specifics.
I mean, that's on Channel 8's website, and that's the quote. So I presume that's correct.
Well, we can,
But-
she sends out her verbatim one, so we
Yeah,
can make sure.
we'll look at
we
it.
all
We
understand it.
might put that on, have Lucinda put that on our website too, just so everybody's got access to it.
Okay. Anything else, Renee?
No, Mayor, thank you for.
Okay, and the workshop's been postponed, so the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.